Hi there, my name's Sue Cooper. I'm an artist and art tutor based in West Sussex in the UK, and I am currently mid doing an oil challenge where I am painting 28 days of oil paintings to get to grips with the medium and to really understand it so I know all of the different techniques. And I started off with this colour mixing exercise and to swatch out my colours, and I thought it would be a great exercise for you to do too. I think this has been invaluable for me, not really knowing how oil colours work. And I think this would be useful even if you've done watercolours, oils in the past you've just got stuck in, but you haven't really understood what the colours are doing. So I started off doing some swatches of all of the different colours in my palette. I've tried to keep these to a minimum, and you'll be able to see a previous video where I've explained what colours I've been putting in my palette. But I've gone for a warm and a cool version of reds, yellows, blues, and I've also done that with greens, although technically you can mix your greens with blues and yellows. It's just sometimes easier to use some paints that are already ready mixed. So I've swatched all of the colours out and I've started blending them together to create oranges for the reds and the yellows. And I've done this by just putting the two alizarin crimsons together, for example, and then mixing it, both of the alizarin crimsons with my yellow ochre and my lemon yellow. And then just make a note of what you've done so you don't remember. And it's a great way of understanding what colour mixes will give you a vibrant colour and what colour mixes will give you a less vibrant colour. And this is a lot to do with warm colours and cool colours and the mixing of them. I'm not going to go into any detail of that now, just because it's quite a difficult concept and probably requires some colour charts to explain properly. But I've also there mixed the cadmium red with the yellow ochre and the lemon yellow, just to see what colours they give. I'm doing the same thing now to mix up some greens. So I've actually got cobalt blue and ultramarine blue, and those were the ones that I had pre-selected. Cobalt blue is a little bit of a cooler blue. Ultramarine is a warmer blue because it's got a little bit more red in it. I picked them both out and thought that they would be quite good, but actually as I was swatching them out, I realised that they aren't different enough in colour for me to warrant having them in my palette, both of them together. I would much rather have a completely different blue that would give me completely different effects if I mix it with different colours than two very similar blues. So I started thinking about how pulling them down so that as a concentrated mix, you can't really see the tone. They're just quite dark, but if you quite dilute them, like I was diluting there with Sansador, which is a medium that is low odour for oil painters, that oil painters use, and you can get a much better feel of whether they are cooler, warmer. Just seeing it in a more diluted form helps a lot, I think. I was a little bit disturbed at what my brush looked like after this exercise. Oil painting is quite brutal on your brushes, so if you do mix colours up a lot and you want to get consistent colour, I would use a palette knife, to be honest, because that brush that I used in the end, I think gave really lovely grassy effects, so I'm going to keep it, but it's not good for getting crisp lines anymore. So I did this colour mixing exercise and I've posted it on my Patreon page so that people can follow along with me as they do it, and you can hear me whilst I'm sort of rationalising what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, because as I started the process, I changed quite a lot in terms of what I was intending to get out of it, and I think that's a really useful exercise. So things like adding white to these colours now, it was really useful because from that I understood that by adding the solvent and diluting a colour, it wasn't effective in getting a lighter colour. It just ended up with a watery sort of streaky look. But if you added the white, it gave you a nice crisp colour. So I found that very useful, and I ended up making a note of what I was using, and I think in the end decided that I would definitely ditch the cobalt blue and go for the cerulean blue, which is the one that I've got there. So cerulean blue is often described as warm blue because people associate that kind of blue with the warm Mediterranean sun, sea, but actually it's a cool blue because it verges more towards yellow than it does red. So a lot of people get confused with the blues. So I decided to do exactly the same. Having decided that I would ditch the cobalt, I decided that I would just test out what greens I could get with the cerulean blue and what I could get with the lemon yellow. And obviously you could do this exercise with as many different colours as you want, but I would suggest that you do try and limit your colours initially just whilst you get to grips with oil painting. And I understood from this exercise that the red is so overpowering. This was alizarin crimson that I mixed with the cerulean blue, and it was really overpowering. So I added a bit of white to that to see what effect that would give. And it was quite an interesting exercise to understand what it would look like. That ended up being a little grayer, for example, when you mix it with I think that was the ultramarine that I mixed it with. So if you're interested in seeing this video in full, then pop over to my Patreon page where I've also got videos in terms of like laying out your palette, materials that you can use, and there will be regular tutorials. I'll post some tutorials about the still lifes that I'm doing, landscapes, animals and portraits, and you'll be able to follow along. There'll be all of the reference photos up there as well, as long as a PDF step-by-step instructions of how to do the painting, so you'll be able to follow along as well. So there'll be the real-time videos, and here on YouTube I'll be posting shortened versions so that you can see what I'm doing, but you won't be able to get the full sort of the rationale, what's going on in my mind. The real-time videos, they're not going to be too long, probably about an hour or so. I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on each of these paintings because I am trying to do them fairly regularly and I just don't have the time, quite frankly. And it's to learn things, and it's to really help kind of get to grips with the medium. So I don't need to be doing 28 masterpieces. The goal is to just understand the medium, all the different techniques are available, and really just get to grips with it. So I do hope you'll pop over to Patreon and join me there, and I'll see you hopefully in the next video. Thanks.